Patrick Lauren, Chief Investment Officer at Plenary. For those who don't know who Plenary is, we're an independent investor, developer and manager of public infrastructure. Founded in Australia a bit over 20 years ago, we're now a global business, partnering with governments to deliver and manage public infrastructure like schools, convention centres, housing, roads, light rail, and here in Sydney, 3 of our Sydney driverless metro lines. Sorry about the depreciation expense on the open ones, Treasurer, but I'm sure you and the people would agree that as a world-class city, exciting public transport that delivers public transport hubs that allow you to deliver housing is something that we want. I want to thank you for taking your time today and squeezing us in and for taking the opportunity to answer questions with 450 of your closest friends. Because we've got 450 people, we're going to be managing this tightly. And so Pigeonhole is the app of choice. We won't be taking questions from the floor, so please use the QR codes on your tables, get the questions in, and importantly, vote for the questions. I've got a counter here, and the questions move up the table as more people vote for them. So I'll get started on a couple of questions while we just wait for more questions and votes to come in. So Treasurer, congrats on your 3rd budget, and congrats also for joining us again for your 3rd CEDA lunch. Probably something that struck me with my sort of focus was your focus on private sector investment as the engine room for economic growth. And I noticed that in your opening remarks yesterday, you called out workers, entrepreneurs, innovators, investors and businesses wanting to expand in New South Wales. And used a line that I quite appreciated, and I think the audience as public policy experts will too, where you said, every serious economist agrees, more private sector investment will unlock the next great era of Australian economic growth. So I know that in the lead up to the budget, you've been visiting a lot of businesses and getting around and really interested in what some of the feedback you heard from that was.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and thank you again for your 3rd grilling of me at a CEDA lunch as well. And can I thank you and the Plenary team, David Lamming, who's your CEO, is here as well, of course, Matt Crocker, and thank you for sponsoring as well. You're quite right to say that I have been spending quite a bit of time just going out and talking to unions, talking to businesses, talking to academics, talking to some innovators, talking to some of our startup leaders, our tech industries and others who are building businesses as small as micro businesses to as big as multi-billion-dollar companies. And they tell me basically everything in New South Wales is awesome.
Well, that's good. Is that job done, or is there more?
Well, that's what I thought, but except for how long it takes to get some major projects done. And that is an area in which we can do better. And I should say that in the last 2 years, particularly under the leadership of the Planning Minister, Paul Scully, and the Secretary of the Planning Department who's here, we've done a lot to reform the planning system. And yesterday we went further by announcing the establishment of the Investment Delivery Authority, modelled on the very successful Housing Delivery Authority, which was created by the Planning Minister and the Planning Department last year, and has already seen tens of thousands of additional homes being brought forward for application for a state that sorely needs them. And so that's what is a good sign of us responding to what we're being told, but we are pairing that with investments in skills, which we need more of, and we also announced an innovation blueprint on the first phase of its funding in this budget as well, $80 million to help get that particularly part of our economy that traffics in the future going faster as well. Equally really pleased that in this budget we've made a big investment in our creative industries, again led by a lot of the work that the department has done and the Minister John Graham has done to really start thinking through not just an arts policy, but how does an arts policy also be a jobs policy? And that's been a fantastic initiative, which is why we were able to say $100 million set aside to find Sydney's next film studio as well. It's just a very practical example of how we're responding. But the broader question is this: we have a tremendous offer to the world right now, stable government, world-class workforce, great lifestyle, fantastic new public transport, Lots of things are going well for New South Wales. So I'm not just saying that we can do better, I'm saying that we have bigger opportunities right now too, and we have to move at the same pace as the rest of the region, which is what's inflected how we've designed this part of the strategy. We're going to need to do more. We don't want to exit an era of high inflation only to start a decade of low growth. And we need to avoid that.
And that's exciting. On those big projects in public transport, last one from me, one close to my heart. 6 million people are using the new metro since it opened.
Yeah,
6
you must
million
be happy
people
with
a
that.
month. Well, I'm delighted, and I think everyone that uses it is delighted too. You went on the record this week or last week as being a pipes and poles guy rather than a roads and rail guy. What do you mean by that, and what sort of
Well, firstly,
where are you looking to turn the balance of infra going forward?
Well, firstly, I'm making the point you actually can have both. And I should say credit to the previous government and credit particularly to former Premier Berejiklian for pushing the metros. And as the Premier has made the point, Premier Berejiklian effectively opened the first 11. The Premier Min's got to open the next 7, I believe it was, of the stations. Right now we're building 25. We're building 25 metro stations as we speak, and feel free to make sure that those costs stay controlled as well of those 25. Do your best. And but we're also building a crossing under the harbour, and we're building a whole new economy and ecosystem and community at the new second Sydney airport. At the same time, we're investing more in Newcastle's infrastructure with a logistics precinct that's being built there that is catalysing investment in the renewable energy zones that is taking place in regional New South Wales. And I should actually say that in regional New South Wales, we're seeing faster levels of economic investment than we had in a while as we are building out our energy future, but we're also seeing our primary industries expand too. But when it comes to the pipes and poles, all I'm saying is that if you want to see what's different about what's coming up compared to what we've done before, we will still be building metros, we will still be building highways, we will still be building schools, we will still be building hospitals, but we are going to need to make sure that we're increasing our water capacity as our population goes up, but also as the economy becomes more water intensive. I was at a data centre at Tarman on Monday. But an amazing company that's been built here in New South Wales that's looking to invest $15 billion more. But they're making the rather obvious point that they need to keep those centres cool, which means they're big water users. And so this is what we need to enable economic growth and incidentally help us meet the housing challenge. And I just don't want anyone to feel as though I think it's either or. What I'm saying is we need to think about how we do it all and how we do both of that part of it. And that does mean we have to be careful, we have to be calibrated, we have to be strategic. And the final point I make on this is that we need to build a new power system, a new water system, finish some metros, build some more metros, build some highways, build some road crossings, solve a housing crisis with about 440,000 construction workers. And we're asking our construction workers to do a lot. We need more of them, but we have to therefore be very careful about how we spend our money in the public's demand, particularly because we do want our construction workers available to help us meet all these challenges.
Yep, and on those 440,000 people, and you flagged it before, productivity. Is that something that you're focused on to get the best bang for the buck out of that dollar and those workers?
Yeah, and we provided a sobering update in yesterday's budget in which we changed our forecast about productivity growth. We revised it downward in this budget. It was the case that we generally assumed that productivity would increase by about 1.2 to 1.5% per year. We've lowered that now to about 1 and made it clear that we think that it's more likely that would be lowered further than increased further in the absence of some change. So we're being candid with people about the fact that we have a productivity challenge. But we're also being constructive, and I think it's a fantastic initiative that Jim Chalmers is pulling together a productivity roundtable to get the national conversation going. I should also make the point that Treasurer Chalmers and the state's treasurers have been talking about this through our Council of Federal Financial Relations, and as New South Wales' Treasurer, we look forward to engaging with the Commonwealth in the KIFA process, in any process the Commonwealth wants to when it comes to productivity. And the final point I think I make is credit also to the federal government. They're now putting money aside as well to help states do productivity reform.
Excellent. Thanks, Treasurer. Move the floor questions. The most popular one by some way, not quite 51% of the votes, but maybe it should be, is what does this budget offer for women?
What does this? Well, actually, we have published. Firstly, I should say, this is the first budget in which we've used fully the gender impact assessment process that was announced at the Treasury. I think the Treasury team that are here deserve a lot of credit for building that as a tool. Secondly, we're not going to abolish it, by the way. And one of the interesting ideas that was suggested earlier this year by the opposition was to abolish gender impact assessment tools when it comes to budget making. And we're not doing that. I want to be very explicit. I thought Matt Keane was right when he brought that framework in. Secondly, in terms of what this budget is doing for women, the gender statement that we published yesterday shows that in the New South Wales Public Service, we're closing the gender pay gap. And that's important. We've got more work to do on that. As we speak right now in Parliament, we are debating as the state's industrial relations laws, in which we will be writing into law a requirement for the Industrial Relations Commission to assess gender equity when it makes its decisions. I should also point out that a big part of the historic investment we made in child protection, the advice is that it does have a gender impact as well. Right. And I should also make the point that the historic investment that we made in expanding social and housing in last year's budget, which continues on in this year's budget, $5.1 billion to build 8,400, half of which are for the victim survivors of family and domestic violence, is also something which we know is going to disproportionately help female victim survivors of domestic violence.
Excellent, thank you. Clearly on top of those measures. You did invite questions from the hard-working public service, and this is one that I suspect is from them. A signature cost saving in the previous Labor budget was a pay freeze on senior execs. That freeze expires soon. Will the freeze be lifted or extended?
Well,
you did ask.
The senior executives that are in the room, please stand up. Please stand up. Well, I like to say that we when it comes to helping families with the cost of living, we help all of them. You're right to say that we have delivered our election commitment, not just to freeze the pay of senior executive services, but also politicians. And that commitment has been delivered in full. And the PRT, or the Public Remuneration Tribunal, will obviously resume its functions when it comes to SES and senior pay. And clearly in the budget, no, we did not extend the freeze when it comes to the SES.
Okay. That's probably what they want to do, and staff surveys.
Well, that's that part.
Staff surveys.
But I should also say that the second part of that is our commitment to reduce the size of the SES continues, and we are monitoring it closely as well. And I know this is something that the Finance Minister and I pay close attention to when we say, are we on track for our election savings? So if you happen to be in the SES and you're still here, thank you very much for your public service. I'll see some of you next year.
Here's a parochial question for you. Leave it up for that. Might get some more laughs. Do we need wholesale federation reform to stop states like, they do name a state that's to the south of here, but I won't name them, being rewarded for fiscal irresponsibility with a greater GST share?
Well, I will settle for a predictable, certain, understandable and explainable methodology when it comes to allocating the GST. Right now, the GST methodology allocation is a black box. Who knows what it means for any particular state into the future? We think you could, even if you change nothing, but simply get the Commonwealth Grants Commission to provide 4-year forecasts as to which state would get what, you would help every state and territory make better budget decisions. And I will say that regardless of whether you happen to be the Treasurer of New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, all of us understand the system could be simpler. And I think that the prerequisite for reform is understanding, and I simply say the Commonwealth Grants Commission methodology can be simplified, but if it won't be simplified, I do think there's a good idea that the Commonwealth Grants Commission should be telling every state what to expect, because if they don't, each Treasury has to sit around and basically guess. Our Treasury deploys a serious amount of resources into getting those estimates, and I should say that our Treasury, in the wake of last year's decision under the leadership of my Secretary, reviewed it and said, can we do better? And credit to it, the Treasury is a learning institution here in New South Wales, but I make the point, it's a hard thing to ask Treasuries to expect. When frankly, Coffs Harbour, which has been there for quite a while, hundreds of years, apparently it moved for the purpose of GST, or at least it was reclassified. Turns out that one of the neighbourhoods that is in the periphery of the Illawarra is a major city of Australia, and Darwin's not. And it was news to them when they found that out as well. And there's other examples which I can keep talking to you about. Turns out that the comparative disadvantage of our First Nations population in Moree is less than it is elsewhere, so New South Wales gets less. It's just wild. And it's just not a practical way which really any state can budget properly. And I just do think that this is one of the ideas I'm looking forward to making the case for further reform in the lead up to the 2026 National Productivity Commission review of the GST.
And I'm sure all of us here in New South Wales wish you strength to your arm in that. A couple of industry-specific questions now that are getting high votes. First one, will the government consider a ground lease model similar to Vic to kickstart more social and affordable housing developments?
Well, the short answer is yes.
Okay. That was easy. We can get through more. Next one is on economic development for New South Wales can be driven by backing emerging technologies. Quantum and AI are raised, where we've got a globally competitive edge. What's the state doing to back these?
We just announced the $80 million worth of innovation funding to operationalise the first phase of the innovation blueprint that's been developed by Minister Chanthavong, which does encompass a focus on AI and quantum computing. Equally, I should say that the federal government is in the space too with its National Reconstruction Fund, and that is a specific response to what I'm being told is particularly by our universities, and we're looking forward to doing more when it comes to quantum and AI. But equally, just another opportunity to say some of the world's best research is taking place here in New South Wales, and we are blessed that we have so many world-class universities here in this state as well. I consider them to be immense sources of economic prosperity for our future, and we should not be talking down the quality of Australian research.
100%. Mindful that we're getting very close to you needing to jump in a car and your minder's going to come grab me soon. Last question for you. I think 2 years ago you were preparing the budget to Chance the Rapper.
I was.
Last year I think you shook it off with Tay-Tay.
I did.
What was playing on the beatbox this year?
This is, I think, the first public time I get the opportunity to reveal the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will say we're back to hip hop. Number 3 was the greatest diss song since the 90s. Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us.
Drake.
Number 3. Yeah. Some of you can definitely say that as I was preparing the budget and particularly grappling with some complex questions of reform with the New South Wales Parliament, I thought a diss track was perfect. Soundtrack. Number 2, late entrant into the race, quite poppy, not a common artist on my rotation, but featured this year. Ed Sheeran, his new song, Sapphire. Why? It's the first time he's sung in Punjabi. And he crossover, which I felt was particularly pertinent as a person who understands and speaks a bit of Punjabi. It was nice to listen to Ed Sheeran. He actually had quite good pronunciation. It was pretty good. He got his accent pretty good. Number 1, which I'm not sure that this audience might necessarily know, but Doechii. People know Doechii? No? Yes. Anxiety. Literally, that was the number 1 song of the year for me for this budget. And Doechii, amazing artist, 112th most listened artist in the world on Spotify. City that listens to her the most, Sydney.
There you go. Excellent.